Hey guys, this is Jason, and today I'm reviewing Renfield, directed by Chris McKay and stars Nicolas Hoult, Akwafina, Ben Schwartz, and Nicolas Cage as Dracula. I mean, how could you not get excited to see a movie like this if he's playing the Prince of Darkness? And it is about Renfield, played by Hoult, who is Dracula's servant and has to feed him other people for centuries so that Dracula can stay alive. And then one day, Renfield decides that he has had enough of Dracula's stuff and decides to go out on his own and see if he can still find a normal life outside of the shadow of the Prince of Darkness. Now, if you've seen my review for The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent from last year, then you already know that I do enjoy Nicolas Cage when he goes over the top, whether it's intentional or not. And I do like him as an actor in general. He has given some good performances, like The Weatherman, which is a pretty underrated movie, actually. Not a lot of people talk about that one. And of course, Pig from a couple of years ago. But I still like it when Cage goes over the top, especially in another vampire movie that he was in before this called Vampire's Kiss. And that movie was, well, let's just say that movie has a Nicolas Cage performance that you will never forget. And in case if you don't know what that movie's about, it's really about a guy played by Cage who believes he's turning into a vampire after he believes he's been bitten by one. And that movie didn't do very well when it first came out, and it's mostly because of Cage's performance being unintentionally funny. But he gets another chance at playing a vampire. This time around, he is Dracula, and he is just having fun with this role. You can tell he is just relishing every line that he says as the character. Nicolas Cage as Dracula is definitely worth watching. Nicolas Hoult is pretty good in the movie. His character's more nervous and quiet, and he's been trying to get out of Dracula's shadow for centuries, and he's been trying to have a normal life away from him. And when he does try to go out on his own, Dracula just keeps trying to come back to him and just make things worse, and you do feel some sympathy for Renfield. I also gotta give credit for the makeup in this film on Nicolas Cage. It's really good. Like, not just the makeup that he has in this film and on the posters, but the makeup that he has in his earlier scenes was really good. The makeup in this film is definitely worth praising. Now let's talk about the action. I will admit, at times the action can look a little too shaky, and there are a couple of times, not too much, but like one or two times where it uses like some of the quick cut editing, but most of the action was still a lot of fun. Like, there's this one scene where Renfield is fighting a bunch of police officers at a motel. That is a really great action scene, and it's also bloody. Like, really bloody. They definitely didn't hold anything back in regards to the violence. Like, they definitely go for some blood and gore, and it definitely shows it. Like, there are times when there'll be blood happening and it would just spurt out like an anime. I mean, I will admit, if you're not a fan of like blood and violence, especially the violence I'm describing, then you might not want to watch this film because there is a lot of that here. Akwafina's good. She gives a pretty good performance, although at times her character feels like the same type of character that she's known for playing in most of her films, like the comic relief that would just pop jokes every once in a while, and sometimes her humor doesn't always feel like it belongs in a movie like this, but she still gives a pretty good performance, and her character does have an arc in the film that's supposed to be integral to the plot, and she does have a blossoming friendship with Renfield. This is also a pretty funny movie. Like, I found a few moments in this film that I thought were funny. I mean, it's not some of the best humor I have seen this year, but I still thought this was a pretty funny movie with some pretty humorous moments, most of them coming from Cage as Dracula, of course. It's not an amazing film, though. I do have some issues with it, unfortunately, and one of them is a subplot with Ben Schwartz's character, and without giving anything away, I thought he was kind of annoying in the film. Like, most of his humor didn't really work for me, and he's supposed to be one of the main villains of the film that's supposed to progress the plot, and he's in this movie a lot, and I really didn't like him in this movie. I mean, I know I wasn't supposed to, but I just thought he was pretty annoying, and he is unfortunately one of the weakest parts of the film. There's also a subplot with him in regards to the mob that's supposed to be important to the film, but it really grinds the movie to a halt every time it's brought up. It really kind of messes up the main story that this movie's really going for. Renfield trying to get away from Dracula's shadow. That's really what this movie's about, and just shoehorning the whole mob story just really didn't make it feel like its own movie. This movie also has some slow moments that just kind of dragged on and kind of took themselves too seriously, which is another issue I want to bring up. There are times in this film where it can take itself a little bit too seriously, even though this is really a comedy for the most part. But there are some serious moments that do kind of mess up its momentum. Renfield is a pretty fun horror comedy. Yes, the subplot with the mob and Ben Schwartz didn't need to be in the film at all. Ben Schwartz was kind of annoying, and there were some slow moments in the film that do kind of take themselves a little too seriously, but it still has good acting from Nicolas, Hoult, and Akwafina. It has good humor, really good action sequences, and very bloody anime-like moments, and a very entertaining performance from Nicolas Cage as Dracula. His performance in this film is definitely worth watching. If you like watching horror comedies and you like Nicolas Cage going nuts, then you're gonna enjoy this movie. But if you want to watch a more serious horror film that doesn't always go for humor, then this might not be for you, because this is more of a comedy than a serious horror film. I'm gonna give Renfield a B. Not a great horror film I've seen this year, but I still enjoyed it for what it was. I hope you guys did too if you saw it in theaters when it was first released. And if you did see it in theaters, what did you think about it? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Did you think it was a really fun horror film? Or did you think this was a terrible movie and it was a mistake to make it into a comedy? Let me know in the comments below. And as always, if you like this review, please leave a like and subscribe to my channel so you don't miss a thing. Follow me on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you in the next one.